Welcome everyone to our webinar this evening on April the 6th, 2016. It's wonderful to have all of you here tonight, and for all of you who are seeing this remotely, while it's being recorded, it's great that you're able to do it in that way. So my name is Jim Murphy. I'm the Managing Program Director here at ECF, and I'll tell you about ECF in just a moment. But we chose to do somewhat of a different, I call it more of a folksy title or more provocative title for tonight's webinar, putting out the question or the answer that so many people will give me in the work that I do all across the country and encouraging people to raise planned gifts as well as to raise endowment funds. And so we just put it out there because this is such an important barrier to overcome. And it's not just this barrier, and I'm going to address this directly, but I'm also going to expand into some other related barriers which you encounter in your work as leaders of Episcopal congregations when you are seeking to bring about this very important ministry. And much of what you'll hear tonight may well be obvious. I often say I'm often stating the obvious, but better to state the obvious than not to say anything at all. And this is meant to help you as you begin your process of leading your parish in planned giving. So tonight we're going to be focusing on some basics of what we're doing with planned giving, some definitions. Then we'll talk about some of the challenges that individuals will bring up and voice to you, or for that matter, your leadership will voice on behalf of your parishioners. It is interesting how empowered some leaders will feel when it comes to this topic to talk for their parishioners. Then we'll do a little bit, a thin dive, if you will, much thinner than I normally do in a webinar, about the different types of planned gifts in light of this and how this fits into everything we're talking about tonight. And then we'll talk about some of the challenges that leadership faces and wrap up with some thoughts and pointers for you to be considering. So as with all of our planned giving webinars, this is not meant to be the end-all be-all. It's meant to be an opportunity for you to learn and for you within your parish to become a better awareness raiser about planned giving. That is the key. And I say that, I think, at practically every workshop and webinar that I do. We want you as a leader in your parish to become a better awareness raiser about planned giving. You don't need to be an expert, but you do need to take some action. So very briefly, the Episcopal Church Foundation, for those of you who may not be familiar with us, we are the foundation for the entire Episcopal Church. We're an independent and lay-led organization, which is quite rare in the Episcopal Church if you know about Episcopal organizations. But we're very proud of that ability to be independent. But we only serve the Episcopal Church, all of its parishes, dioceses, and related entities. We focus on two main areas at the Episcopal Church Foundation: on leadership resources and financial resources. And we do this so that you, as leaders of your own congregations, can do the work that God has called you to do in your own particular circumstance. In our leadership area, many of you are familiar with our Vital Practices website. I've referenced it there, but that will be in the email and whatnot that you receive after this webinar. You may well know us for our Vestry Resource Guide and other programs which we have in place, all of which exist to empower your leadership in a variety of ways by sharing stories, sharing best practices, and many other ways. Financial resources. We are able to help parishes raise and manage financial resources in a number of different ways through our wonderful capital campaign program, where we are able to work only with Episcopal entities on a sliding fee scale, so that based when you are in need of those particular services, we can work with your parish or Episcopal entity on a sliding fee scale based upon your budget. The areas that we also delve into are annual giving, annual stewardship, strategic planning, and helping you to understand better how to organize yourselves in a strategic way through our Strategic Resource Initiative. The areas I oversee here at the Episcopal Church Foundation are planned giving, where we are the main resource for planned giving. That's why we're talking tonight. We also have a wonderful endowment management program, which I'll mention later because there's something that we can do to help any parish out there, and I'll come back to that later. And we also work in special donor solutions on how we can help donors fulfill their needs as philanthropists and benefit the church. So without further ado, let's go a little bit deeper into some basics. And as I was mentioning before, this is recorded. All of our webinars are recorded. And that is so that you can obviously hear them and share them with others, send the links out. So much of what I'm going to cover in this short section has been covered in other webinars at greater length, but I do want to touch upon a few basics so everyone understands the context of what we're talking about with planned giving tonight. Very briefly, there's three basic kinds of giving. And the first being ordinary giving. These are gifts which people make out of their current income, which typically go to support the ongoing daily ministry, your annual budget. There's extraordinary giving, given within the context of a capital campaign where you make a significant pledge and then pay off that pledge over the course of several years. Then there is ultimate giving, or planned giving, or legacy giving. These are all the same basic thing. These are gifts which people make out of their estate or out of assets they're holding for retirement. And as you can see, the brief descriptions on the screen, for planned giving, the most important word in that description is the word future. Planned gifts are future-focused gifts. That is a key thing to remember, because what that helps you to understand is that you should not be consuming any planned gifts in your regular operating income just to stay open and just to sustain your current level of program. That's not what planned gifts are for. They're meant to enhance the long-term mission and ministry of your congregation, typically ending up in an endowment. They could also be used for other very specific future-oriented capital needs, but on the whole, most should go into an endowment because they last then, if an endowment is being properly used, for the future mission and ministry of your congregation. Just a quick note, because I'll come back to this later. Know that your largest number of gifts that you will receive will come in the first form, the ordinary gifts. You'll receive a smaller number of gifts from extraordinary or capital campaigns, and you'll receive the smallest number of gifts from legacy or ultimate or planned gifts. These are gifts from your most dedicated members. And I'll mention this again later, but you should not be expecting that every single member of the congregation is going to make a planned gift. And that's also a part of why people resist and say things like, no one here has enough money for a planned gift. It's typically because they don't really understand planned giving, that it's future focused, and that it's not everyone that you're expecting to make a planned gift. Some people will not, and that's okay. That is okay. This is a basic description about what planned gifts are, and you can read that for yourself. I now say the single most important thing, and friends like T.J. Houlihan are on the line tonight know this quite well, that when an individual makes a planned gift to your congregation, they raise your congregation to the level of family in their estate plans, to the same level that their children and grandchildren are. It's a hugely important and emotional gift for that person. Always remember that fact, because everything that you do around planned giving will evolve from that. Please also remember never to appear as if you're giving legal, tax, or financial advice, because you are recommending individuals to go and seek their own legal, tax, and financial advice. And quite honestly, to answer the title of our webinar tonight, many times leaders who are afraid that they'll be perceived that they're giving legal, tax, or financial advice may not move forward, and therefore they come up with reasons like, oh, no one has any money in this parish, no one could make a planned gift. It's typically not true, and that's why I want to address some of those issues directly. And please know, I should have mentioned this before, if you have any questions during the webinar, I'll have a section when folks can actually post their questions, but post them at any point while I'm talking. I would be happy to pause at any time if I can and answer those questions. So just type that into the chat message if you wish. So let's focus on our main topic for this evening. That what do you do when you get that response that either I, or as we'll hear later, we at the parish don't have the money for a planned gift? Well, my main message for this evening is what I have up there. Planned giving is for everyone to consider, regardless of age or personal circumstance. And I recommend that every time I go out and talk to leaders throughout the country in the area of planned giving. You cannot know what your parishioners' particular financial or other personal circumstances might be. You can't know to that level, and you shouldn't really presume to know. You should be willing to take the initiative to raise awareness of all the different types of gifts so that people can make their own decisions. Because as I say, you really don't know, and you need to raise awareness so that people can act as adults and make these decisions for themselves. You as leaders need to remember some of these pointers that I'm giving, that you can't expect everyone to make a planned gift, but you as leaders of your congregation need to take action and raise awareness about planned giving so that people have the opportunity to raise your parish to the level of family and have that opportunity to be generous. That is a natural human instinct, and you should not be denying that. You should be enabling it in the best way possible. So the first challenge, well, the first sort of response, I should say, for that statement that someone doesn't have enough money is just to consider that, well, there are many different options. And this is one of the barriers that I've tried to help leaders think through, is that there are many, many different options. In fact, I'll be sending a link to everyone after this webinar with a summary of all the different types of planned giving options. No one should assume that since you're not wealthy or since you don't have a lot of assets that you can't give a planned gift, because there are many different kinds, and of those different kinds, many different varieties of ways to give. An important thing to remember as leaders starting the planned giving effort is that you will never, and if you're talking to me at least, you should never ask someone the dollar amount of their gift when it comes to planned giving. You are raising awareness as an extension of your stewardship ministry to people to consider what type of gift is best for them. In time, you can actually inquire what type of gift someone has, but you should be making people aware of all the different ways that they could make a planned gift, such as a bequest, different types of bequests, insurance, life income gifts. And I'm going to touch on all of these in a moment. But you need to allow people to be adults and to consider what type of gift is best for them, because many of them are at low thresholds of giving, and almost anyone could give them. Also, you don't want to disincent people. And we'll talk about that again in a moment. So the other thing to remember, because it is often the leaders at the parish who just stop planned giving from progressing. And part of the reason is they don't raise knowledge of the different options, but they also forget, even though it should be obvious, these are future gifts. These are not gifts that are being made now. They are gifts which people are considering now and then putting in place through legal and tax professionals that they should be working with. And then that gift is given in the future. And in most cases, individuals have the power, and that's what you need as leaders to remind them, they have the power to change that gift. They can make a change to that gift in the future because very few planned gifts are made and then it's done. Most are revocable, such as in a will or other types of instruments. That gives someone a sense of comfort and power that they can make a change if they wish. Also, think about mentioning to people that they can make a gift contingent. I'll talk about that a little bit later, but that basically means that if something happens, then a gift that they are giving would first go to one person, a member of their family or whatever, and then maybe to another person, and then after that it could go to a charity. That also helps people to become much more comfortable with being willing to give a planned gift and to get along on this path of doing this, because people need to be made aware so they can take action and decide for themselves what's right. Now, believe it or not, many times people think that their planned gift is not going to matter, and that comes up strangely within the context that they haven't been thanked for other gifts, and gifts are not being celebrated. And I am a strong advocate of putting together a legacy society at your congregation. That's not the topic for this webinar. I'll mention something more about it in a few minutes. But you need to be celebrating for people the different types of gifts and the different people who are giving those gifts and saying thank you in a public way. What that does, because it addresses this first issue, what that does is it raises awareness to people that anyone can make a planned gift. And you should make certain that if you're going to have someone talk and give a testimonial about why they gave a planned gift, you should consider that you should have someone who's a more average person, someone of average means, talking about this. And maybe they would thank everyone else when they're giving that type of a testimonial. But you want to ensure that you're celebrating and saying thank you because you want to demonstrate that individuals will be thanked and that anyone can make a planned gift and can be thanked for it and be appreciated by it. More about that later on and in other webinars on a legacy society. So individuals perceiving that their gift is inconsequential. This is an odd problem, but one I like to mention, and it may take a little thinking over for you as leaders in your congregation. Sometimes in parishes, there is an over-focus on the money part, on the building of endowment part when you're talking about planned giving. Your main focus in planned giving really needs to be having your leadership focus on raising awareness of the different types and focusing on thanking people. The danger can come, quite honestly, if part and parcel of that message, it appears that you are communicating that you're really looking for the big gifts and not communicating what I would consider the most important message, which is that everyone can make a planned gift, that every gift matters regardless of the amount, because you're never going to ask how much it is, but you're going to raise awareness of all the ways people can do it and be there thanking people and continually raising awareness. I would recommend, and this is something to put in the back of your minds when you move forward with your planned giving efforts over the years, be careful not to only have, when people address your congregation, don't only have people from your endowment committee do it. Don't only have a treasurer or someone financial do it. Have a variety of people do it. Have a variety of people giving testimonies, because you don't want to have what I call that psychic switch flipped in people's minds, that this is really about money. It's not about money. Money is an outcome to it, and many times it can be very substantial as a gift. But the main focus of your plan giving ministry is saying thank you and helping people to know that they can become a part of something much bigger than themselves through giving any type of planned gift. There's also a prejudice I have, and I'll probably mention it again later, and that is some churches, when they're beginning their planned giving efforts, will tightly tie the endowment with your giving of a planned gift. And the way they do that quite often is by saying that someone can join the Legacy Society either by giving a current gift or by making a planned gift and notifying the parish. Now the danger there, and that's this psychic switch thing you have to be careful of, is that if you put those two as equal, you are going to be communicating silently to the people who do not think of themselves as wealthy, or do not think that their gift would matter and it may well be inconsequential, that you'll flip that psychic switch and they'll think, well, all these folks are really looking for are significant gifts. Even though that isn't your intention may be just trying to be more inclusive and say thank you to those individuals who've made a present gift to the endowment and they get invited into the Legacy Society. I recommend you bifurcate that. You separately thank the individuals who make gifts to your endowment, and then the people who get to join the Legacy Society and get celebrated in that way are people who only gave a planned gift and have notified you of that. That divides your audience, and then it's very clear that when you're making communications about planned giving, you are only talking to planned givers, okay? And you're able to celebrate those people who have made gifts to the endowment, but by dividing it, you pay some insurance, pardon the pun, so that people's psychic switches are not flipped, that all you're focusing in on is the money, because that's not what this is about. And the more you tie it together, the more people who don't think of themselves, I can help you find. The more people who think of themselves as not wealthy or not able to make a planned gift will be incented not to, and that's not what you're trying to do. Okay. So again, my main message on top, always remember that you should be making people be treated like adults and raising awareness so they can make the decision for them and speak to their families, seek their own legal, tax, and financial help. A few things to remember to counter this mistake that people don't have the means to make a planned gift, because anyone can, is the misperception when you have individuals making small gifts every year. It is amazing how many people are just afraid to give too much money away while they're living. And this is a legitimate concern. People are very fearful of outliving their money. Nowadays, with so many things changing in medicine, people's lives can extend far, far beyond what anyone would have ever predicted before. And so there is this concern. And so you may find that some of your givers are a little more frugal, if you will, in their giving to the parish. And I'm here to tell you today that that is okay. It's up to them to decide what is appropriate for them in their stewardship and their giving. We want them to be as generous as possible, and that's another topic for another webinar. But in the area of planned giving, I don't want you to be afraid that if you have many, many small givers, small amounts coming in from individual givers, that does not mean that people don't have significant assets that they may be holding on to give away after they pass away because they're afraid of outliving their assets. very important factor to take in, because what makes an obvious planned giver, an obvious potential planned giver, is consistency in giving. So it is more likely that you will get a planned gift from someone who is a consistent giver, even if those gifts are very small throughout their lifetime. They may well be one of those people who are keeping their assets for potential problems in the future, to take care of dependents, whatever the case might be. And it's only after they pass that they feel they can actually give a significant gift. Okay? So, not wanting to deny family, this is an important aspect to remember. People may not want to make a significant commitment of a planned gift because they want to give to their family first. Well, my heavens, that is just fine. You want to encourage people, when they are making their plans for end of life, give to their family and their loved ones first. Give to those who they are tasked to take care of. Give to those people first. That is exactly what we would want them to do. You're not asking them to deny their family. What you are raising awareness of are different opportunities for them to, if they wish, make a planned gift and raise your parish to the level of family in their plans as well. One way possibly to help people through that, if they do feel that way, is to suggest that perhaps they consider making the parish a contingent beneficiary, so that after their spouse or whomever passes away, then it's possible for a gift, which I'll describe in a few minutes under bequest, that it could come to your parish or to another Episcopal entity. Okay? So just keep that in mind. The other thing to keep in mind when people are afraid to ask this because they presume that someone is going to give only to their family, the reality, and I've heard this many times from a friend who does planned giving for the wonderful Diocese of Maryland, is that his children don't need his money. They are doing much better than he is. And so he has 4 kids, taking 10% and giving 10% or tithing his estate to the church is just fine, because all it does is reduce each of his children's percentage by 2.5%. It's almost nothing. And it allows him to teach his children about what was important to him in his lifetime, and hopefully communicate that that is something they could consider too. So not wanting to deny family doesn't always play out as you might think, and there are opportunities for people to consider. So various ethnic considerations, and you guys know your parishes much, much better than I ever could. And there may be any variety of circumstances. I've spoken with friends in the Diocese of Hawaii. I've been out to Hawaii several times. They have a wonderfully active planned giving ministry out there, led by Peter Pereira, who works for the diocese, and he's done a fantastic job. And I've learned from him that within Hawaiian culture, it's very important that you demonstrate that you give a very significant amount to your family, and that it's clear that you, wish to be remembered. And this is true of several ethnic groups, that they wish to be remembered by their children, by their descendants, by giving a gift. And that's certainly something to consider about what's appropriate when you're raising awareness locally within your congregation. There may be cultures that also don't like attention drawn to themselves. And knowing that estate planning, or actually an estate when it's probated, ends up being very public, they don't want information out there. And you just need to keep that in mind and just allow people to know that it is okay, that they can consider, leaving assets to their family and considering their own particular situation. But don't just leave it at that. Also, raise awareness of all the different types of planned gifts. because a particular type of planned gift that might fit better for that individual, for their family, for their culture, may be very appropriate. You need to let people know so that, again, they can act as adults and make those decisions. But don't assume that everyone is going to make a planned gift. That will just cause you pain and keep you up at night. It's not going to happen typically. The last two items I wanted to talk about on this page are really less about that initial question and more going toward the donor need situation and what donors are needing themselves. All of us need, and we need to, as humans, be able to express what those needs are and either act on them or not act on them as is morally appropriate. But what's very interesting is this deep-seated need to memorialize loved ones. And it is an opportunity when people are making a planned gift, that a planned gift they could make could be in memory of someone for whom they had great and deep connection. Many times sisters and brothers who died young. Sadly, I have my own experiences with that. And it really helps in the grieving process. My sister died tragically young, but she had been a doctor. And we had created, among our family, none of us are wealthy, but we were able to create a small scholarship by pooling some of our resources together so that other women that came from disadvantaged families could also become doctors. Now, you can probably hear in my voice the emotion that that evokes. And what's interesting about that is that that's actually been tested scientifically by a gentleman named Russell James. And many of you may have heard of him. You can look him up on the internet. Fantastic guy. I can't say enough positive things about him, but he has done research on brain activity when people are presented with opportunities to be generous and to give. And one of the most important things that I learned from him when I was at one of his conferences was how much more someone is evoked and willing to make a donation when they can make it in memory of someone due to a connection to something. The example that he did a lot of research on was for individuals who had relatives who passed away from cancer. And the amount of positiveness, and I can't get into the science of it, you should look up Russell James on your own, the positiveness that comes from when someone makes a gift in memory of some person who suffered with something or was connected with a particular charity, it just accelerates the amount of brain activity and the positive brain activity. So this is just something for you to consider as you're raising awareness of planned giving, that people can memorialize their loved ones through a planned gift. And that's not committing the spending of the gift. It's literally just a way to, an extra way for them to memorialize and for you as leaders of your congregation to thank them and make sure that you record when a gift comes in that it is in memory of this person so that you can thank that person when they notify you, and when that person passes away and the gift is actually realized, my heavens, you should be notifying family members that you know of this person so that you can let them know that this was done in memory of this person that they loved so much. It's a powerful, powerful way to enable people to raise your parish or other Episcopal institutions to the level of family in their estate plans. So consider that. Now, another issue with trying to solve donor needs is literally that. Can you solve a donor's problem with a planned gift? Believe it or not, sometimes you can. And I'll chat about some of those in just a moment. But the important thing to take away from this last point is the importance of listening. Many priests who do listen carefully to parishioners may uncover that they have a particular need that a planned gift could help resolve. Now, as I always say, we are not asking the rector or other priests at the parish to be responsible for planned giving. That's not the most effective thing for them to do. But if they are in close collaboration, I talk about this in other webinars, with the leadership who is doing planned giving, they can communicate confidentially opportunities for individuals to consider how a planned gift might solve some problems. And I'll return to this in just a moment. So that is a quick recap of some of these issues. Now, let's talk briefly, because I want to spend some more time talking about what you can do in your congregation. The lesson here in the next few slides, because I'm going to go through them quickly, you can listen to other webinars that I have out there for the different types, is listening for donor needs and allowing donors, even if you're not talking to them directly about it, that you're sharing resources either from the Episcopal Church Foundation or other entities so that the donor can reflect on what's right for them. Now, I just mentioned a few, and I'll go through them quickly. Just be thinking about in your own mind, how would this potentially solve a donor's need? 401k, IRAs, and other tax-deferred accounts, these are great opportunities for people to save money for retirement. Now, the problem with them, quite honestly, is after an individual and their spouse pass away and there's a remainder balance in the 401k or IRA, if it goes to other people, it will be very heavily taxed. However, if it's given to a charity, it will be received by that charity completely tax-free. So it can be a tremendous gift. And this can be very helpful for those individuals who may have that concern and wish to allocate these assets directly. It also is heartening for people because that way they can know that they could pass on other assets to their loved ones, and these, which for sure would be taxed because as a tax-deferred account they were never taxed before, they will be taxed as ordinary income, even if there is no estate tax. Individuals can use this to make some of their charitable giving and then pass on other assets that they have to family and others. Now again, with everything that I'm saying about all these different types of gifts, you're encouraging everyone to seek their own legal, tax, and financial advice. You're never seeking to come across as an expert or someone instructing anyone. And you're instructing people to seek their family's knowledge, not always buy-in, because some people don't want their parents or whomever to give to charity, but do bear those facts in mind. Life insurance can also be something that really fits for people and for people who may not be of tremendous means. Many people receive life insurance, term life insurance, for free from their employer. And although they may not be able to part with other assets for a planned gift, they can certainly consider making the parish or their favorite Episcopal entity a partial or a contingent or a full beneficiary of that life insurance. That's very easy and something that they can do. Real estate, yes, absolutely. That can be a wonderful planned gift. I encourage all of you that you should have in place gift acceptance policies so that you can go through a process of letting people know whether or not you accept real estate. Real estate, sadly, can turn into the gift that keeps on taking from your congregation. So just carefully consider that and raise awareness within the members of your congregation whether or not they can make a gift of real estate, because it may be too much for your parish to handle, and there are always some very interesting stories about that. So let's move ahead to the wide variety of bequests. And I say wide variety in estate allocations because there are many people who seek to avoid probate and the probate process at all costs. Often in California, individuals wanting to avoid the various issues with probate, and many people don't like probate because it is public, that they create what's known as an inter vivos, an enduring life trust, and place their assets into that trust, again, for a variety of reasons. And many, many people are designating things with something known as a pay on death for various accounts, so that all someone needs to do, if they are the recipient of a pay on death benefit and bequest, they just take that proof of death, typically with a certificate, with them to the bank, to whatever, and the assets become theirs immediately. This is becoming more and more common, and fewer assets are going through the will. But regardless, this is all opportunities for you to be raising awareness, because you should be encouraging people to consider a variety of things, especially when they're planning for the end of their life, so that their wishes are fulfilled. Hopefully, some of those wishes may be making a gift to your Episcopal congregation or to another Episcopal entity. To focus on the topic, because I'm sure if you've heard my other webinars, you've heard me go through these before, I would stay away again from focusing on encouraging people to leave a specific dollar amount to your parish in their will or in their trust. And that's because it again flips that switch, that you're also focusing on money and not focusing on the gratitude for that individual raising you to the level of family. The other problem with specific dollar amounts is they have to be paid first, and sometimes if people had radical changes of circumstances late in life, it can end up that their wishes aren't going to be fulfilled because they didn't change their will to reflect their new asset base. Typically, encouraging people to leave you a percentage of their estate will be more palatable for individuals giving you that feedback, or leaders giving you as a plan-giving leader that feedback that nobody has money in the parish. Well, for heaven's sakes, that's fine. If people don't have money, they can be encouraged to leave a percentage. If they never found it in their heart to tithe while they were living, it ain't going to bother them when they're dead, perhaps. That isn't my phrase. That is a friend of mine, Terry Parsons, who used to be a stewardship officer of the Episcopal Church. She used to say that all the time. And there's other things to consider, specific assets or leaving the remainder, or again, contingency. If this is going to happen, then afterward it can be given to a church or to another Episcopal entity. You're trying to lessen that fear, that anxiety about making a significant commitment. Many people will make that significant commitment, but they may not make it all at once. People may make it gradually and may make a contingency bequest or allocation in their trust at first. Encourage them to do it, because later in life, as circumstances change, if you're already in the will or in that trust, it may well shift into a permanent bequest and not a contingent. So allow people to be where they are, respect it, but raise awareness of the different options that they have so that they don't feel as threatened, so that they know, especially with all of these allocations and wills and trusts and pay on demand, they can revoke it. They can make a change. They can make a different contingency. So all of this should lessen that anxiety, which is at the root of why people think they don't have enough money or can't make a planned gift. Bequest designations, just in your plan giving work, make sure you are raising awareness of how gifts are going to be used. The best way, I'll mention later, is by putting in place endowment and gift acceptance policies to help educate people that you are trustworthy as leaders of your congregation. And that will encourage people to leave you fewer restricted gifts and more unrestricted gifts. That's, again, in another webinar. Very, very briefly, life income gifts. These will be very appealing to some people, and in the document I'll be sending people, you'll see the very low threshold, you'll see it on the screen in a second, of many of these gifts. These are gifts that will be very appealing to people that don't think of themselves as wealthy, but want to raise your parish or Episcopal entity to the level of family. The way it works is a donor makes an irrevocable gift. They can't get it back. They receive a charitable deduction, and they receive typically income for the rest of their lives. And then when they pass away, whatever remains of that gift is given to your parish or the episcopal entity that had been noted. This is a good solution, quite honestly, for many people who don't think of themselves as wealthy, but they want to give a planned gift, or for whatever cultural or other reason, they might feel they can't give you a gift in their estate, and they need to leave that to family. They could actually make one of these, which is a present gift, but it doesn't come to the parish or episcopal entity until they pass away. But many of the thresholds, as you'll see that I'll run through briefly, are lower, and it may be very appealing. We actually work with a parish out in Oklahoma that's done a wonderful job of encouraging individuals to make these small gifts, and it allows them to join the Legacy Society and become active and knowledgeable, more knowledgeable about planned giving. And that is a part of what you're trying to do in planned giving by raising awareness, as I keep saying, about the different types of gifts. Super brief. Life income gifts. The first, pooled income fund. This is for someone who doesn't need consistent income, because this income goes up and down. It only pays out the income that these assets produce, but it leaves the maximum remainder for the parish. And as you can see, very, very low threshold, and they can add to it at any time. Charitable gift annuity, another very low threshold, and was the example I brought up about the parish in Oklahoma. They have many, many people making these small gifts, and then after they make that first $5,000 charitable gift annuity, they do another one later on. And the way these gifts work is it is a fixed amount of income where the annuity rate paid is based upon their age. So they may make a gift now, make another gift 5 years later. Well, 5 years later, in all likelihood, they will have a higher annuity rate. And it may be actually an encouragement for them to keep doing something like this. And this low entry point has been maintained by the Episcopal Church Foundation and my will to keep it that way, so that you have this low threshold so that everyone feels they can participate. Charitable remainder trust, therefore larger gifts, but still $100,000 is actually a pretty low threshold that ECF keeps for this type of gift. This is a much more complex gift. As I was mentioning before, some of these gifts might be appealing for different reasons. For example, the charitable remainder trust is very appropriate for people when they have real estate. As you listen to people and what their needs are, they may reveal that they have a challenge, such as they need income. And maybe that's a solution of one of these life income gifts. They may also have a piece of property that they don't use anymore. It's fully paid off, but they have to pay taxes on it every year. Let's say they have a cottage, a family cottage. They've been not using for many years because the kids go off to Cancun. They don't use the cottage anymore, and it's just a burden to them. They could actually use a charitable remainder trust, because it is a higher threshold gift, to take that real estate in, and instead of having a burden where they have to pay taxes, they end up with a diversified portfolio that's paying them income while they're alive, and then will make a gift to the congregation or Episcopal entity after they pass away. If you need information on any of these types of gifts, please just let me know. Now, you have this in your slideshow, which you have the example of a charitable gift annuity, which can go to 1 or 2 people. Again, in other webinars, you hear about this. This is a new webinar for me, so it's perhaps not as perfectly timed as I would desire. These are some factors I want you to remember. These are the most important things about planned giving, and I mention them now. I've mentioned them before, because it's crucial when we go up against, I should say, some of the resistance that your leadership may be encountering. Now, I want to invite folks to type in any questions, and I see one actually that's up, and that's from Melissa. And that's fantastic, and that is exactly what you can do. She is asking someone who's made a charitable gift annuity already to do a testimony, to talk about, to be featured in an article, to stand up at your annual meeting and talk about why they made this important choice. Anything that works for you, and as I say, other webinars go into that in more detail. But you may certainly type in any of your questions that you have. I'm going to continue on, but do type in your questions as we begin to wrap up for this evening. What's important is obviously trying to get your leadership behind, all of your leadership behind doing planned giving, because when you do it, you want to be committed to it. As I say, play for keeps. You want to do this and keep it going. It's just so important that you do keep it going and you don't demonstrate to people that all you cared about was the money. You want to be celebrating and thanking people, and we'll talk about that in a moment, on an ongoing basis, so people feel that they are appreciated for making this very significant commitment. Now, it is often our parish leaders who provide the most challenge and are the ones speaking on behalf of their fellow parishioners, saying that there isn't enough money. And so what I encourage you to think about is, are you supporting your donors? Think of it in that way. Encourage your leadership to think of it in that way too, because they need to know, they need to be aware. The biggest obstacle in doing a planned giving effort is that people are not aware that they can. And these regular, comments that people just don't have money there. I've been in numerous dioceses all across the country in very difficult financial circumstances in different parts of the country. What's really interesting is in many, and I won't mention where, so I don't want to point anybody out, but in many of the Rust Belt areas of our country, you also have individuals who are extremely frugal, and they have saved a tremendous amount of money. Even though they don't spend openly or draw attention to themselves with the assets that they have, or they're afraid of outliving those assets, many of them have very significant assets, and if they know how they can make a gift, they may well do it. And that goes for every part of this country, from my home state of Michigan to various parts. There is opportunity. It's just, sadly, leadership gives up early because they do have to do some extra work. Now, there's this unfounded fear that it's going to impact giving now. Nothing's farther from the truth. These are all future gifts, and people need to be made aware that these are, on the whole, primarily future gifts. People are not going to stop giving now so they can give much more in the future. That will not happen. I'd love to hear a story if it does, so please call me collect here at ECF if that does happen. A big barrier, especially leadership talking on behalf of other parishioners, is this fear of mortality. They don't want to face their own mortality. They don't want to talk about it. They don't want to raise awareness about planning because they're afraid it's just going to be a downer. Well, the reality is, though it can be a tough subject, you as leaders of your congregation need to take some of these actions so that you are enabling people and empowering them to be able to make choices as an adult so that they can make estate plans so that their wishes may be fulfilled. This misperception of wealth and age, just know that there is no statistical tracking between great wealth and great planned gifts. There are so many parishes here in the greater New York area that have a significant endowment because an elderly woman, well, as we all know, women are more generous than men and are better at finances generally than men, will often store up great wealth, which if they believe in the future mission and ministry of your parish, they may well give that gift through a planned gift. They may not have given it while they're living because they don't want to outlive their assets, but they may well give it after they've passed away. And people are shocked by it because they would say, well, that person never seemed like they had wealth. Well, that is a typical experience of people who have great wealth. They aren't that showy most of the time. Age is just something to know, and why I have said earlier, you need to raise awareness regardless of people's age, because it's probably better to get in a will and an estate earlier And many organizations like Stelter, who does research in planned giving, will say you want to get in that sweet spot between 40 and 50, because that is the best time to establish that relationship and that opportunity for people to include you in their will. I've already mentioned this. You need to just know that not everyone will give a planned gift, and that's okay. But it will likely be your most consistent givers who will give a gift, and you need to make sure you're raising awareness, though, to everyone, regardless of age or circumstance, because honestly, as this that item says, every charity in this country is talking to the members of your parish, and they're probably doing a better job of raising trust and raising awareness than you might be. There is a question that came up from Steve, and that's something I'm going to mention, which is that the Episcopal Church Foundation does have endowment and gift acceptance policies that are available to you, which you are welcome to. So we'll be inviting you to, if you'd like, we're happy to send those to you and help you to work through them and customize them for your own particular need. Now, if you've been on my webinars before, you know I have a great affection for this role, the planned giving shepherd. And having a planned giving shepherd, a person designated who's not the priest, not the church warden, not the treasurer, not the head of your finance committee most of the time, who can take on the role of making sure that they shepherd the process, move it forward in planned giving, and use the resources of the Episcopal Church Foundation or other entities. That is the planned giving shepherd, and you, on the phone, on the call tonight, you may be that planned giving shepherd for your congregation. And you, by even just listening tonight, know that planned giving is much more than money. It's about ministry. It's about helping people to raise your parish to the level of family in your estate plan. I've already mentioned this about the danger of associating money and all of what we're doing with planned giving too tightly. That's something your planned giving shepherd can ensure that your leadership is thinking about all the time and careful about not doing. And sorry, something just flew at my face. This is a key factor, being transparent and accountable. Are you building trust among the members of your congregation? Most planned gifts will be made after someone's passed away, so they're not going to be able to come after you and check that you're using that gift in the right way. So you need to build trust while they're alive. As I just mentioned, those endowment and gift acceptance policies go a very long way in doing that. Don't forget about past givers. I was once in a parish in Florida, and they were very proud to tell me, yeah, we tomorrow will be purging X% of our database because they're out of the parish, we don't talk to them anymore, and we're going to stop sending them the parish newsletter. And I stopped them from doing it. I said, no, do not do that. Just because someone leaves your parish and moves on, they may still have a very deep spiritual connection to you. Do not cut off those people, because many of those people who may move on for business reasons or other reasons, retirement, they will probably have a much stronger connection to your parish than the one they'll end up in. And if you continue to keep that relationship sustained, you will be able more easily to allow them to remember you with a planned gift. This is also something a planned giving shepherd can protect you from. And this last one is simply what I've been saying before, which is that you want to treat people like adults. Allow them to make their own decisions. And leadership should not stand in the way of the opportunity for individuals to make this very generous commitment to your parish. The Episcopal Church Foundation is the main resource for planned giving, is here to help you. We have tremendous resources to assist you on. I'll hold up a few. Many of you are familiar with Funding Future Ministry, or some of our booklets and brochures such as Planning for the End of Life, or my last one and my favorite, Planned Giving on Demand. If you can get all of these through Forward Movement Publications. We'll be sending you links for how to order them. Why? Because they are our various resources that you and you as Planned Giving Shepherd can use to first educate yourself and then educate other leaders at your congregation. We're here to help you. Please do make use of those things. And what I wanted to close just briefly, we have other webinars about legacy societies which you can listen to. But what you want to do now is begin to plan for the future. And you can do that right away. You want, obviously, through a legacy society to be able to thank people now while they're living. And so what I'll just leave you with are 2 key points, and you can listen to other webinars about this. The first being, if you're going to be serious about a planned giving effort, having a legacy society is key. And you can do this by beginning to plan your inaugural event far in advance, sometimes 2 to 3 years. And when you're thinking about, well, what would be a good time to do a legacy society inaugural event, the very first time you're celebrating people for their legacy gift and their commitment to do so? Well, if there is an anniversary coming up, the anniversary of your parish, anniversary of the building, anniversary of the first rector, you can be creative, and it's going to celebrate the past, hold up the witness of what ministry you're doing in the present, and look toward the future. Those are perfect opportunities, because within that context, it's a perfect time to talk about planned giving, raise awareness of planned giving in that lead up to that anniversary event, and on that anniversary to do your inaugural event. If you can't have that anniversary event, that's okay. You can simply pick a date and work with it. But you need to do it a couple years in advance, because you need that time to do education, raise awareness, so people have the time and space to contact their family, to discuss this with professional advisors, and then to make a commitment to a gift that fits for them. You can't be pushy. The pushiness will certainly bring you that reaction of, I don't have enough money. And one closing point, once you are operating with a legacy society in the future, once it's underway, for every year after that, you need every year annually to celebrate and say thank you to the members of your legacy society. The way to guarantee that happens is to force yourself to be accountable. So when your parish is planning the next program year after you have your legacy society underway, make sure that you pick the date of the annual event in advance so it gets into the program calendar and you're accountable to do something, because it's better to do something than to do nothing at all. So in closing, all of you should know that there are tremendous webinars that are available to you. They're all on our ECF Vital Practices website. There are many webinars coming up, and all of us at the Episcopal Church Foundation are anxious to help you and support you in all of your efforts, especially in the areas of planned giving, endowment management, and helping your members of your parish raise your parish and other Episcopal entities to the level of family in their estate plans. Let me answer a couple of questions that have come up. We're basically don't have any new ones. Anyone who would like to stay on certainly is welcome to do so. What recognition do you suggest above and beyond thanks certificate plaque? This is something that I actually have some very strong feelings about, and I end up disagreeing with a lot of individuals. This is my point of view. If you're going to have a legacy society and celebrate the members of the legacy society, I suggest you do not put people's names up on like a permanent display on the wall with those little gold leaves until they have made the actual gift, until they actually pass away. I just think it is a little dangerous and somewhat guilt-inducing, and that's not what planned giving is supposed to be about. You're not trying to guilt people into making sure they remember you in their estate plans by having their name up on a permanent wall. That should happen for current gifts. And if the culture fits for your congregation and you do a capital campaign in the future and you want to do some sort of physical recognition for those who gave to the capital campaign, that's fine. Again, that's a present gift or a present commitment they're making. It's not this future gift. The reality is, and I've seen it happen in a couple of places, where they have this wall of gold leaves, and some of them were not able in the end to make a planned gift for any number of reasons. It may have been they really weren't committed. Maybe they were almost pushed into it because they were a leader at the parish and their name got up on the wall, but they had never finished and made their commitment. Or they could have had a very tragic change of circumstance and they didn't have the asset anymore to leave you that gift. And that would be embarrassing for their family. So from my perspective, having a wall for the Legacy Society members while they are living is not a good idea. Only do it after they pass away. So for other opportunities to say thank you, it depends on your culture. You can certainly give a certificate. If that's fitting to your culture, that can be very nice. You could have their names scrolled in calligraphy in a book so that when they're inducted into the Legacy Society or make a planned gift, that gets put in this book. I am a big proponent of the pin, and I'm not wearing my ECF pin. Don't tell my boss today, but pins are great because what they afford the individual, they receive a pin, let's say, when they join the Legacy Society or they've committed to making a planned gift and finished it, either written something in the will, made a life income gift, finished their insurance allocation, whatever the case might be, and they get a pin. Why is that so important? Is that you can instruct planned giving folks or those who are members of your Legacy Society to wear their pin at different times throughout the year, because that will allow them to give their own personal testimony for why they chose to make a planned gift to their congregation. And that is one of the most powerful ways to encourage others to make a planned gift. Okay, let me answer one more question. What happens if a restricted gift is given and the church is not capable of fulfilling? Well, gosh, hopefully the parish knows right away before they take in the gift that they're not able to fulfill it. And then they just don't accept it. Because the problem is a parish is legally obligated to fulfill what a donor restricts in a gift. And that is why we hope that you'll build trust and educate people and put endowment and gift acceptance policies in place so that people will leave fewer restricted gifts. But if they give you a restricted gift, sometimes the parish has to say no. Sometimes it's a gift the parish can't handle, like an apartment building or timeshare or something like that. You have to say no to the gift. It's easier to say with gift acceptance policies in place. However, if you've accepted the gift and over the years you find you can't fulfill it, I can't get into full detail about this, but you should be consulting the parish attorney on what steps you'll need to take because you may need to come up with a way that the parish can fulfill that gift. Otherwise, you could be in serious trouble with the Attorney General of your state if you're not fulfilling the donor's wishes. There is a process called cypre. Again, sorry to do Latin, but it is a process where a restricted gift is held by an entity, and if the entity is not fulfilling the wishes by cypre, the entity can be released from those restrictions, but also that gift is sort of put out there for other entities to offer that they could fulfill the wishes, and then that gift can be transferred over to fulfill the designation of the donor. So it's very complex, but if you're finding you're in that situation, the best is that you refused it up front and you had to give the gift back. That's exactly what typically has to happen. Hopefully it happens early than late. And it goes back into someone's estate or back to the individual if they're still alive. So I unfortunately have to say goodbye. We have a big group actually who's on, and it's wonderful for all of you to be here. Please know that you'll be receiving a copy of this recording and some other materials as well as the slideshow again. But please know that all of us here at the Episcopal Church Foundation are here to assist you. We have tremendous resources, all of which are available to you, especially Planned Giving on Demand, which is our most comprehensive resource. It's everything that we have, all in one package for only $35. So it's a tremendous bargain, but it allows you to teach yourself at your own pace. So thank you all so much for coming. It's been a wonderful night. First time for this webinar. Sorry we went over by about 6 minutes, but we also had a funny technical glitch there. So have a wonderful evening. God bless you all, and God bless you as you move forward in your planned giving efforts. Good night.